There is a moment on the twin flame journey that nobody adequately prepares you for. Not the separation, not the running and chasing, not the sleepless nights or the inexplicable pull towards someone who seems simultaneously essential and unavailable. Those things get talked about endlessly. The moment that rarely gets named is the one where everything goes quiet, where the longing that once defined your days loses its sharp edge, where you wake up and realize you spent the entire previous day without once checking their social media, without once replaying a conversation, without once building a case in your mind for why they will return, where something that felt like the center of your psychological universe has gently, completely shifted back to where it was always supposed to live, inside you. Carl Jung never used the term twin flame, but he spent his entire career mapping the interior journey that the twin flame experience, at its most authentic, is pointing toward. He called it individuation, the process of becoming so fully yourself, so genuinely integrated, so completely whole, that you no longer need any external relationship to complete what can only be completed from within. The Sophia state is the name for where that journey arrives. Sophia, the ancient Greek word for wisdom, the highest expression of the integrated soul, the point at which the lessons embedded in your most profound connections have been fully metabolized, and what remains is not emptiness, but an extraordinary, grounded, self-sustaining wholeness. Here are the 8 signs that you have arrived. Sign 1. You have stopped needing the story to make sense. You no longer require a tidy explanation for why this connection unfolded the way it did. You have released the need to assign blame, to identify who failed whom, to construct a narrative that vindicates your suffering. What happened? Happened. It shaped you. That is enough. Jung called this the transcendent function, the psyche's capacity to move beyond the opposites of right and wrong, victim and perpetrator, into a more integrated understanding that holds complexity without needing to resolve it into something simple. Sign 2. Their happiness no longer determines yours. This is quieter than it sounds. It is not indifference. It is not the cold absence of feeling that people sometimes mistake for healing. It is something more mature. You can genuinely wish them well from a place that costs you nothing. Their life is their life. Yours is yours. The energetic cord that once felt like it ran directly through the center of your chest has not been severed. It has simply changed its nature, from need to neutrality, from hunger to peace. Sign 3. You have integrated your shadow. Jung was unequivocal about this. The twin flame connection exists at its psychological core to surface the shadow, to bring into unavoidable visibility the parts of yourself you had not yet examined, the wounds that drove your patterns, the fears that shaped your choices, the unconscious beliefs about your own worth that made certain dynamics feel like love because they felt familiar. If you have reached the Sophia state, you have done this work honestly, not perfectly, but honestly. You know your shadow by name. You are no longer blindsided by it. Sign 4. You have stopped waiting for their readiness as a condition of your own movement forward. Your life is no longer on hold. Your growth is no longer contingent on their growth. You have understood at the cellular level what Jung meant when he wrote that no one can save another person from the work only they can do for themselves. You have put down the quiet vigil you were keeping, and in putting it down, you discovered your hands were free for the first time in years. Sign 5. You experience solitude as nourishment rather than punishment. The Sophia state carries a particular relationship with aloneness that most people never reach. Solitude no longer feels like evidence of something wrong with you or missing from your life. It feels like oxygen, like the necessary space in which your own interior voice can finally be heard above the noise of longing and analysis and waiting. Jung considered the capacity for genuine solitude one of the most reliable markers of psychological maturity. The soul that can be alone without being lonely has found its own company worth keeping. Sign 6. You have become genuinely curious about your own life again. There was a period, probably a long one, where your primary intellectual and emotional energy was directed outward, toward understanding them, toward analyzing the connection, toward making sense of something that resisted ordinary sense-making. The Sophia state is marked by a reorientation of that curiosity back toward yourself, toward your own unlived possibilities, your own unexplored dimensions, your own future, which suddenly feels open in a way it has not in years. Sign 7. You no longer idealize the connection. This is perhaps the subtlest sign and the most important one. You can see the relationship clearly now, not through the lens of its highest moments, not through the pain of its most difficult ones. Clearly, you can acknowledge what was genuinely rare and valuable about it, alongside what was genuinely unhealthy and unworkable about it. You hold both without needing to collapse into either. Jung called this the capacity for ambivalence in the truest sense of that word. The ability to hold two true things simultaneously without forcing a resolution that distorts one of them. Sign 8. You understand that the twin flame was never meant to complete you. They were meant to initiate you, to serve as the catalyst for a journey inward that you would not have taken any other way. The intensity of the connection, the inexplicable recognition, the push and pull that seemed to operate beyond ordinary psychological explanation, all of it was in service of this, of bringing you to yourself, of making the interior journey not just appealing, but unavoidable. Jung wrote that the most important meeting a person can have is the meeting with their own self. The twin flame, in all their complexity, in all their beauty and their difficulty, was the universe's method of ensuring you could not avoid that meeting any longer. The Sophia state is not the end of love. It is the beginning of the only love that was ever capable of sustaining everything else. The love that begins and ends with you and radiates outward from that center without losing itself in the process. You have arrived.